Welcome to the Centralized News, your weekly brief of the biggest stories affecting the cryptoverse. I'm your host, Piter, joined as always by Ozzy. Welcome in, sir.
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me. Always excited to talk about what's going on in crypto, dude.
All right, not financial advice. We're not advisors. Do your own research. We have breaking news this morning. MicroStrategies Incorporated was added to the Russell Top 200 Value Index. I mean, on the surface, just opens up capital from larger pools of institutional funds, maybe big families, pensions.
Yeah, it's pretty big. It really does open up and increase the level investment into MicroStrategy, but also just the kind of people that will be investing in it without realizing that they're investing in it just because they're buying the Russell index or
Allocation to the Russell 200 for New Jersey firefighters pension fund.
exactly. And that just
That's not a fact, by the way.
yeah, but it's quite interesting to see it and to see what that might mean for MicroStrategy and Michael Saylor's strategy moving forward. Does he?
That's how this whole thing plays out in the, whether you want to say the 4-year Bitcoin cycle or the business cycle. What happens with all these new companies, doing the MicroStrategy? Strategy doesn't seem to have taken on a lot of debt or a lot of bad debt, and they have revenue from operations. So it's just now we're starting to see a lot of copycats. And are they taking on bad debt, or are they taking on a lot of debt, or just pure debt and don't really have a business model? How does this play out in the end? Intriguing to watch. I am got my popcorn for this one.
Absolutely. I have quite a bit of popcorn watching to see what happens in the Bitcoin strategy world. Another
I mean,
oh, go
no, go
ahead.
ahead. Well, I mean, you just have stocks overpriced to their Bitcoin, and they don't have any revenue. And then when it's a volatile asset, when it drops, what's going to happen? But anyway, yeah, we'll move on. Positive news from the regulation side.
Absolutely. On the regulation side, we're seeing something really showing the adoption and allowing this Bitcoin strategy to start maybe being available to regular users, regular consumers. William J. Polt, who's the director of the Federal Housing Finance Agency, or FHFA, or Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, they announced that they're going to be ordering the Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac to prepare their businesses to count cryptocurrency as an asset for mortgage. So, up until now, really, crypto was nothing. You couldn't account for it in any way. Even the current ETFs, you can't really borrow against them like you can any other stock in your 401k. What how the Federal Housing Authority is now saying is, hey, prepare your businesses so that we can start doing that. We don't know what will be required for it to count, which cryptocurrencies will count, but it's a big major first step for those that maybe don't invest in traditional equities but rather just in Bitcoin, for example. What
Yeah,
do
I
you think,
know.
Peter?
Well, I mean, I'm going to be moving, and I was looking into. I was talking to a loan officer, just like, where do I stand? Is it even a possibility? And one of the things they ask you is about your assets, and they'll ask you about your 401k and how much money you got. Do you have any, private investment accounts, anything you want to count towards, and which just helps you get the loan. They'll ask you about, Bitcoin or cryptocurrency. So, it's definitely a benefit. I know you can take like loans against 401ks. I've never done it, but I mean, there might be other things that come out of it too. But either way, you're allowed to count it as an asset and improve your chances of getting the loan. I mean, it makes sense. I have something I can sell, I'm less likely to default on the loan. You know, I mean, it's just on the surface makes all kind of sense. But yeah, like, are they going to require you to hold it in something they have? I don't know. Does it centralize it in some way? Does it bring in KYC and AML laws for this benefit of being able to do that? You can see some angles there, but it's still really interesting news for its long-term adoption. It seems like a big positive. Maybe nothing going to happen in the short term, but
Yeah, it's
so.
it's
It's
yeah.
exciting news. It's just, we'll see how it plays out and what they're going to require,
I
what it
mean,
what it
we
means in the end.
we see the Genius Act that's still kind of working its way
It
through.
got past the Senate and it's in the House, something like that.
Yeah,
So the wheels of
there
government flow.
there's a lot of regulation around stablecoins in that bill, and a lot of things around AML and KYC for stablecoin issuers, and so it wouldn't be out of the question to see something like that apply in Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac in being able to count cryptocurrency as an asset for a mortgage. There's a few really odd things in the Genius Act about how they treat stablecoins rather than treating it as a currency. They treat it just like any other crypto asset, but that's beyond the point. But we are definitely seeing some adoption in that sphere. Talking more specifically about Bitcoin and mining of Bitcoin, we saw a pretty big change right after the bombing in Iran. Do you want to talk a little bit about
Well,
that?
it's just like a fun conspiracy theory that popped up out of it. It's like, okay, all the way on the extreme end, is it, oh, did they actually bomb Iran to hit their Bitcoin miners? Because that's where the real play is. And fun to consider. But either way, there was a drop in hash rate that kind of went along with these bombings. And Israel was already attacking Iran and their infrastructure before. So there was a drop. It was not sudden enough where it's like, okay, these attacks from the US happened hours apart. So it would have been like, boom, a shock. But it was a big 20% decline. So what caused it? There is a lot of mining going on in Iran, and their infrastructure was hit pretty hard. So, that makes sense that was a part of it. But there's also heat wave in the US, and that has historically caused the hash rate to fall in the past. So it's happening. So that's part of it too, and just the way it went down, it wasn't sudden. It wasn't like this big drop. So probably not the big conspiracy theory, but still fun to think about. It's a fun little story that came out about it. And the first time we've seen it's just been up only for the hash rate. So the first time we've seen a little bump down, and then it has this difficulty adjustment that it does automatically. So if less people are mining it, it makes it easier to guess the next block. I don't know if you knew this. So like if they had no difficulty adjustment and it was just they had to guess, it could never happen. Like we could never get a next block. Like it's that difficult. What was the thing I read? It kind of blew my mind. It was like there's all these miners out there guessing the code, and someone gets it right. Well, they only have to get it as close to right as the difficulty adjustment, and that no same two guess has ever been made, even with all these computers guessing all the time. That blew my mind.
That is insane to think about.
Do your own research. I mean, yeah, but how
That is
difficult it is. But anyway, so they adjust the difficulty when the hash rate goes down, and it was the biggest drop since the 2021 mining ban. So some activity in the hash rate world.
absolutely a drop that compares to the Chinese mining ban, and China was a pretty big miner at the time, representing over 7.5% of terahash at the time. So that's pretty wild to think about. It was a decline of more than 15%. I do really think that the heat wave probably had more to do with it, looking at how the
The
US
market
grid
doesn't
is.
seem.
Well, that's it. To me, it might make a lot of sense with the heat wave. The load on the US grid goes up incredibly with just the number of ACs that really start working overtime, and it wouldn't be surprising if a lot of these miners have deals with the grid that they have to turn off in high load situations.
Even if not that, they increase the prices in order to reduce demand. You know, in these extreme situations. So
Exactly. So you either have them being forced to shut off, the costs become too high, so they have to shut off, or even these extreme temperatures might make it a little bit harder on the miners to mine in the first place. And
just poor miners.
and with the price declining at the time with the bombing, some miners that
Yeah, they're
were
probably a little sad too.
yeah,
Hard and it's
that's
hot.
it. With the bombing in Iran, you really probably had some miners with the dropping price that
Right.
were really
Was
marginal
profitable.
shut
Sure.
down some of their miners because it started becoming too unprofitable for them to continue mining, at least for that period of time. So it'll be interesting to see if it shifts back up at some point, but it's quite interesting to see that it time wise it almost shifted it only shifted 2 weeks before the Chinese mining ban did. So the timing in this drop is very, very similar to 2021.
Yeah. All right, well, let's go on to the next one. Chainlink partnered with MasterCard to enable cardholders to purchase crypto directly on chains on Dexus. This is an interesting story. Credit cards trying to stay relevant as things go on chain. I wonder, it's like, how. Anyway, MasterCard and Chainlink are teaming up to power Swapper Finance, a new way to build crypto directly from centralized exchanges DEXs using any MasterCard. So holders of MasterCard's 3.5 million cards will be able to directly purchase crypto on Uniswap. So shout out Uniswap. It's the first time major payment network has enabled direct to DEX swaps at scale. So we'll see if this catches on. This is the way to go, or people are gonna be like, we don't need MasterCard. Let's just
Yeah,
go.
it'll be
Already
interesting.
there.
It'll be interesting to see what they choose to do, and if users choose to do anything about it. But it's a new on ramp, and I mean, in one way, as on ramping gets easier, more people are likely to use it and adopt it. Between being able to count crypto against your towards your future mortgage, or being able to onboard directly from fiat using your MasterCard, all of them provide some pretty interesting use cases for that. And MasterCard, although they're the only payment service directly to be doing this, there are definitely some other stories we'll be talking about that are kind of in this similar vein. So exciting to talk about that. But first, let's dip into the macro a little bit. You've been seeing some of the shifts
Well, a couple of
around.
weeks ago, we had, it's kind of old news now, but Swiss dropped their rates to zero, citing easing inflation. So I got sign for hope. I mean, it's just like, oh, okay, somebody's doing 0%. Let's go. I mean, if you want to see price go up, kind of rooting for low interest rate environment. We don't want inflation, so it's tricky. But sign of hope. We've seen some central banks. One's in Canada cut recently too. So the only ones. Then we have Fed Chair Powell speaking tomorrow. It's a policy panel for the European Central Bank Forum on central banking. So we'll be speaking in Europe, it looks like. A lot of unemployment coming out this week. The July 9th minutes for May. So last month's minutes are coming out on July 9th. Sorry, they're coming out on July 9th. And we're a ways away from a meeting. I mean, by 30th, and there's like 80-20%. Nothing's going to happen anyway. So maybe a volatile week because of all unemployment, but we got a ways to go before.
That's it. We're still basically a month away, and
There's still pressure coming from Trump. Seems like he's still like, this guy sucks. Should be cutting
absolutely,
rates. I think JD Vance said something about rates too. Not sure. Don't quote
there's
me on that.
definitely been some pressure from from both Trump and Vance, and we're definitely seeing movement around the world. Canada has held its rates a little bit lately, but has also done more aggressive cutting than the U.S. prior to that. Outside of
I
that,
understand it's possible, or eventually they have to cut rates, but man, like inflation has sucked. Like nobody wants to see that get worse, or I don't know. The pressure he's getting, it's like, why shouldn't really be political in my opinion. But I mean, inflation is still pretty sticky. I don't know. I mean, of course, I would love to see the injection of liquidity that is said to come from it, but yeah, inflation's a scary bugger.
absolutely, inflation is definitely something you want to keep an eye out for, and there's been some interesting kind of trade pressure between the U.S. and Canada. Trade talks were called off by Trump a few days ago, relating to some new digital service taxes in Canada. Well, they've apparently been temporarily suspended, so still a lot of uncertainty around trade deals in the US as well, contributing to this uncertainty and currently favoring no cuts for the July meeting, just about 30 days away. So we'll see. Hopefully, maybe we get some good news come September and maybe we start seeing some cutting.
Yeah, I mean it's particularly true for altcoins. It seems like they've had a dreadful bull run. I mean, Bitcoin's done pretty good, but coins have suffered and seem to need it. You know, people holding for when alt season really want to see the Fed pivot at some point if they want this to happen.
Absolutely. And there's some pretty strong data right now for the last three meetings after July. So July, and then there's September, October, and December. And all three of those meetings are favoring a 25 basis point cut each. So dropping rates by 0.75% before the end of the year. So we'll see if that changes, but hopefully it does, because yes, altcoin season seems to be far away still.
Teetering on the brink.
Yeah, and
Like, is it gonna have a run out of time here? What's going on?
absolutely. And that's kind of led to a little bit of a conversation that we are going to highlight here is meme coin season over? An interesting story that we've seen recently is that Google search traffic for meme coins is down 88% since the launch of Trump, and Pump Fund's weekly trading volume is at its lowest point in the last 9 months. There's some aspects that can go kind of alongside this. There's lots of competitors for Pump Fund that are launching, whether it's for launching meme coins specifically or launching new tokens for projects, so more launch pads esques. And we also had Pump Fund, one of Pump Fund's founders, get arrested in the last couple of weeks. So all of these contributing to a potential decline in
What,
activity on
they got
Pump
arrested
Fund.
for?
Oh, you hadn't heard about that? He got arrested for a whole bunch of things, but one of the part of it was potentially like launching launching meme coins on Pump Fund.
The trading kind of stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah. Surprise, surprise.
yeah,
I mean, degen space. So I mean, I don't know. Yeah, okay. Seems normal. But yeah, it needed a cool off. Meme coins will probably never die. They'll always be going on. Be interesting to see. And a lot of these launch pads are also launching coins with utility, or maybe that's because the narrative is shifting a little bit away from meme coins and more utility coins, and there's still meme coins claiming utility, just launching on stuff like this.
yeah,
From like to an idea of utility coins and shifting from meme coins to something that is trying to build something. Rex Osprey got approved, or their CEO is claiming that it's going to start trading on Wednesday. So a Solana ETF with staking. So staking is a theme. So starting on Wednesday, this is a new skill, a new attribute they leveled up in the ETF game. And then Robinhood, there's also a story. Robinhood launches ETH and Solana staking, I guess, on their app. This is a big change because in February 2023, it was Kraken that removed staking as part of a settlement with the SEC. That included a $30 million fine. So the tides have turned. Robinhood just timed it a little better, looks like. They're
yeah.
getting staking. Kraken is still without.
Absolutely. And just to add a little bit to Pump Fun, them and a whole bunch of X accounts linked to trading on the platform or trading of meme coins all got suspended from the X platform last week. So in the last couple of weeks. So very interesting, kind of all tied together. But Robinhood really leaning in on that crypto train, because they also went and launched tokenized stocks on Arbitrum One, and later on a Robinhood based layer 2 blockchain utilizing Arbitrum's Orbit stack. They're going to start by issuing 200 US stocks and ETF tokens, but it's going to be for EU customers directly in their Robinhood app. So interesting
Maybe it's
move
because
there.
they can do stuff like this. It seems, I don't know, on the surface. And good news for Arbitrum too. They, you know, been kind of sitting on the sidelines a little bit lately. Not a ton of news, stuff like that. But big partnership with Robinhood. We talked about the meme coins. Coinbase, trying to get in on this too, is seeking SC approval for tokenized equities. We talked about Coinbase a lot last time. They had a credit card, and then There's one other story. Oh, you're gonna be able to trade whatever's on base in the Coinbase app. So you can go to their decentralized universe from the Coinbase app, but still access to DeFi.
Absolutely.
They're
And
seeking approval for tokenized equities, which kind of went along with your last story, with Robinhood doing the same. So they're trying to compete.
yeah, I think it's going to be very interesting to see how they both continue to compete in the space. It's showing that interest, and I think that's super super important. The fact that we're already talking about tokenizing equities on chain is a major step, means that these institutions, and if the SEC does approve this tokenization by Coinbase, means that even the SEC thinks that blockchain's ready to handle this. And
Yeah, then you have like in the background the Stablecoin Genius Act. And it's
yeah,
like, okay, so once you have stablecoins, where's that money going to go? I mean, it's going to look for yield. It's going to look to do something. And if it's easier to keep it on chain, future's
yeah,
bright.
it just,
But it's going to be a bumpy road.
oh, 100%. But I think the also interesting thing is that Robinhood is doing this tokenization so that they can make US stocks and ETFs available to EU users, which is a pretty smart use case right there. So we will continue to see what happens. The other kind of news is more on a marketing front, but the NBA team, the San Antonio Spurs, signed a multi-year jersey deal with French crypto firm Ledger with the slogan "The future is secure." So crypto getting back into that advertising space a little bit, which they've been sort of shut out of because of the whole FTX situation. So people warming back up.
I mean, it's a popular sport in the States here, basketball. San Antonio Spurs are a pretty big team. They weren't in the championship game or anything this year, but they're traditionally a rock solid team. Cool to see.
Absolutely.
We got a little more round this up. We got VeChain to release Stargate, a staking platform, on July 1st. VeChain's getting a little bit of news. I don't even know if this is a real video, but I saw it posting a bunch about Dana White holding a bunch of it. I don't know if that's true. It's like this AI, I'm
Yeah,
always
no, VeChain for a long time had a partnership with the WWE, and VeChain holders could actually attend WWE matches as part
oh well,
of.
Dana White's the UFC guy.
Oh, maybe it's UFC. It might be UFC. I don't follow wrestling or fighting that much,
Oh,
but
I'm always a little suspicious, but that's a couple of, little stories. Oh, staking. All of a sudden, this Dana White thing circulating around. I don't really believe might be a coincidence, but it might be, well timed.
yeah, but I think I do know that many of these do exist, and I do know that there was a partnership between, maybe it was the UFC and VeChain for quite some time, and then the last story is kind of following the same vein of Coinbase and Robinhood and kind of
Yeah,
that on chain narrative. Bybit is launching a testnet for Byreal, which is going to be their own Solana-based DEX on June 30th, so today. They already have one in the ETH ecosystem, Apex. So this is now entering the Sol ecosystem. So Bybit trying to compete a little
Launchpad
bit with
next.
Coinbase, probably.
It's like, yeah, market share, baby. Let's go.
That's
Solana's a big player, man. So, I mean, Ethereum and Solana, that's top two right there. So, Bybit might be
that's
around for a little while. We'll see.
That's it. They're doing their best, especially as are probably one of the bigger exchanges outside of the US.
I hear their name a lot. I don't use Bybit.
They're not available in the US or Canada. So they're an alternative, yeah. They're an alternative kind of sex for centralized exchange for most of the rest of the world. I think they're especially popular in Asia, but they do have some decent market share competing with Coinbase and with Binance, I think especially in that space. So good for Bybit as well.
All right. If you guys enjoyed the content, please like, subscribe. We appreciate it. We're not financial advisors. Please do your own research, educational and entertainment content only. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Ciao.
Centralized News.